Hey guys, Brad Cassidy here, and I'm speaking with Emma, and we just wanted to do this video to explain to you some of the things that's really came what we spoke yesterday about a deal that Emma was looking at. So Emma, did you just want to share with the guys what the deal was?
So I was looking at a deal on the Gold Coast. It was a 1,700 square metre block and was in low residential density. The way I was looking at the deal was the pre-existing house on the block was at the front and towards the left-hand side of the block, and it had a driveway going down the side of it, but it had about 700 square metres at the back to put a block of land on, and with the low residential density I could subdivide with that amount.
So a couple of really key things here is, and when I sat down with Emma, was firstly, what was one of the first things, like when we understood that it could be subdivided from a lot size, what was some of the things that I was asking you to really make sure that we could check to make sure that all the other aspects of the subdivision could be done?
Where the stormwater and sewer were on the block, so if they were running through the block, then it'd be very hard to move them around the block. And the driveway, if it made Gold Coast City Council requirements, and also the environmental overlay codes.
Yep, absolutely perfect. And so what we did, we stepped through that process yesterday. We got online, and a lot of this information you can find online. We got onto the Gold Coast City Council website to have a look at obviously the planning scheme, but also we could use Dial Before You Dig to have a look at where the infrastructure and the sewer and the actually in Gold Coast we couldn't actually get the sewer and stormwater, but your dad went and visited the property, didn't he?
Yes, Dad went and visited the property today on Saturday, and he figured out just by talking to the agent where the sewer manhole was. It was actually at the back of the property and about a metre off the boundary and running straight through the middle of the property on a diagonal.
So this is really important to understand, guys, when you're looking at a subdivision, is where the sewer runs. If it's running through there, it's a very expensive exercise. Now, it's not to say that the deal's not going to work, it's just you need to factor that into the feasibility to make sure that you're going to have to move or relocate the sewer lines, or if you build over the top of the sewer, you'll have to make sure that you encase it, or which is a very expensive exercise. And there was another thing that we spoke about with your dad being there to check while he was there, which was about the access. So do you remember what we spoke about there, about the side access and making sure that
making sure that the boundaries were right and that it was a 5 metre.
Yeah, every council's different. So it was about to. So what a really good point there was to, whilst Emma's dad was going to have a look at where the sewerage is use that opportunity to measure the distance of the side, because that's really important as well. Is because just because you can fit a car or a truck or something down the side when you're looking at a subdivision, because this particular subdivision was what we call a battle axe subdivision, where we're looking at trying to get a access down the side beside the property, existing property at the front, to unlock the rear block. And so when you're looking at subdivisions and you can see, oh yeah, perfect, I can fit a car down there, that doesn't mean you can actually have the access that's required. You'll need a certain distance, which I believe is 5 metres, from the outermost projection of the property to the boundary line. Now, admittedly, the boundary line may not actually be on the boundary line, but it'll give you at least an indication while you're there to measure those things out, to check to see if you can get to the rear of the block. So that was a really good thing to check. And what happened then? Did you?
Yeah, Dad checked it and it was fine. It was about 5 metres, and he also did like a mini building inspection on the pre-existing house.
Yep, fantastic. So do you just want to share what was also some of the things that we found when we looked at the online on the Gold Coast City Council website, what we found in the report about the overlays?
There was an environmental biodiversity overlay code in there. So when I went on Gold Coast City Council website, I found out that the overlay was hinterland to coast corridor, and I'm not exactly sure what that overlay means.
So, well, basically, no, but it's fantastic, because this is really important as well. You have to check what the overlays are on the property, and you can do that either from asking your town planner or by looking at the council website. Now, if you can't get to that information on the council website, speak to a private town planner and ask them what are the overlays on this property and what effect is that going to have on this property if I want to do a subdivision or if I want to do a townhouse development or whatever it is that you're looking at, because they will definitely affect the property and what you're able to do on it. So it's a really good idea to make sure that you check the overlays and make sure that that's not going to affect the property. Now, the property was also slightly sloping towards the rear as well. So,
yeah.
Did you want to share with everyone what you learned about that process?
So with it slightly sloping towards the rear, when it rains, the rain needs to go somewhere, and going to the back of the block isn't really great because you need somewhere for the water to actually lead to.
Perfect.
And with the sewer lines, as Ian has just discussed in there, sewer doesn't go upwards,
Yes.
it goes downwards.
So water and sewerage goes downhill. So what we're basically saying here is that if the property slopes towards the back of the block, and what Emma and I were talking about yesterday when we were going through the feasibility, is that this can really affect your numbers, because you have to be able to demonstrate to council that you can deal with the stormwater and get it to the legal point of discharge, which is generally out in the gutter in the front. And if it's going uphill from the rear to the front, then there's going to be quite a costly exercise. So making sure that when you're looking at subdivisions as well, that it's preferable if it's sloping gently towards the front, or there is some sort of legal point of discharge towards the rear that you can do. We checked that out yesterday, and unfortunately there wasn't any legal point of discharge to the rear. But again, this doesn't mean that it completely kills the deal. It's just something you need to take into consideration, and we did in the feasibility to make sure that it's going to be worth taking to the next step. So I suppose in closing, did you want to just share with everyone what you decided to do with the property?
Not going to have a look at the auction. My father, being a builder, he actually found some problems with the pre-existing house with water damage that they've actually tried to hide in the house, and really it was going to cost us more in the renovations than it was that we originally planned, and there wouldn't be much money into it. So just going to see what happens after the auction. And
Perfect. And that's really well done, and that's a great learning and lesson for everyone, is going through the whole process and then working out, hey, you know what, this has not actually got enough money in the deal because we found all this information out now, and the auction, usually generally speaking, in auction terms, you don't have an opportunity to have any due diligence clauses. It's a cash, unconditional contract. And right now, we're just not comfortable enough to be able to go forward with it, not with all these unknowns. So, hey, let's see what happens. It could pass in, and at the end of the day, it's learning about what's possible on the property, and if it's worth moving forward with and buying it at the right price to make sure that there is a profit. But I think Emma's done a fantastic job at not going ahead with this at the moment, because doing the due diligence, which is so important to make sure that it's going to be a worthwhile project. So congratulations, Emma.
Thank you.
And look forward to seeing what you're going to be able to create and smash.
Yep, it's going to be very exciting.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.